Your attention, masters, mistresses. All systems functional for the Everything Geek podcast.
Hey, my name's Rich McDonald, and I played David Mason in Call of Duty Black Ops 2, and you're listening to Everything Geek podcast.
Hey everybody, you're listening to Everything Geek podcast. Thanks for listening.
Hey, it's Leif Gaffert. I played Uncle Ben's killer in The Amazing Spider-Man, and you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast.
Hello, I'm Simon Fisherbecker. You probably know me better as Dorian Moldovar from Doctor Who, or the Fat Friar from Harry Potter. And this is Everything Geek podcast.
Face it, Tiger. You just hit the jackpot with the Everything Geek podcast.
You're listening to the Everything Geek podcast, bringing you interviews from your favorite films and TV shows every week, and all of the latest news. Here's your host, Ruari Williamson.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast. I'm your host Rory, and joining me today is a very special guest. We have actor Graeme McComb, best known for playing Young Martin Stein in DC's Legends of Tomorrow, A.D. Sam in Unreal, Chris in Bates Motel, Greg in Living Life or Waiting to Die, Peter Aboud in iZombie, Jeff in Supernatural, Caleb Burcell in Masters of Horror, the Concierge in The Magicians, and Skinny Employee in Reaper. How are you today, sir?
I'm very good. How are you?
Very good, thanks. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So getting right into my questions for you, Graeme, can you tell us how you got into acting?
Sure, yeah. It happened when I was a young boy. I was obsessed with the movie Ghostbusters when I was growing up. Absolutely obsessed. Where I changed my name to Egon, one of the characters, one of the Ghostbusters, and I wouldn't respond to my own name, even from my own mother. And I just really fell in love with film and storytelling and movies from that point, and since then that's what I wanted to do. And I got into theater when I was a teenager, and I went to a theater school here in Vancouver, where I'm from, called Studio 58, which is a really well-known theater school across the country, and graduated from there in 2010 and have been working away at it ever since.
That's very nice, and I do have to ask, how many years did the Ghostbusters phase go on for that you won't respond to anything else?
I don't think it lasted for very long in terms of substituting my name for Egon, but I really did love them for many, many years, and would when my mom would take me to the video store, that's the only movie I wanted to rent. Number one or number two, I like them both equally. So probably I'd say maybe five years was pretty heavy Ghostbusters.
Wow. I'm just thinking, like, my mum would not let me use any name other than my own. Certainly not a fictional one.
That's funny. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, my mom kind of let me run with it, which was nice.
Yeah. Were there ever any times where she just seemed a bit like fed up with it though?
Well, I don't think so. I think my mom has always been like one of my biggest fans, and she's always gone along with all the things that I've done when I was younger. I would do like role playing things where I would like come out of the shower and I'd have a robe and I'd like slick my hair back and I'd pretend I was the president of Canada, even though we don't have a president, but I would say I'm the president of Canada. And I would come down the stairs and I'd say, ask me for my autograph, and she would, and then I'd say, no autographs today, and I'd walk past her. So she's always down with my little scenes when I was a little kid. So I think she embraced the name change for a bit.
Yeah, well, that's one way to practice acting, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Isn't it just great, though, when you have, like, a mum who's as supportive as that, though, when you're, growing up and wanting to get into something like acting?
Yeah, and I feel so very lucky because both my parents, my mom and my dad, were very supportive in me chasing my dream, whatever that may be. But they were never trying to steer me in another direction whatsoever, and they were always nurturing and encouraging of my ambitions.
That's great. Can you tell us how you were originally cast as Young Martin Stein in DC's Legends of Tomorrow?
Yeah, so it was just a regular audition, and I think it was August. August of 2015. Because I remember the first day of filming was the day after my birthday, which is September 20th. So it was the 21st. So yeah, I auditioned for it in August, and I was familiar with the character because he appeared in Arrow. The Flash. My bad.
I was like 1 second away from correcting you.
Yeah, I was like, whoops. I'm glad you didn't have to correct me there. So they gave me some clips to look up. So I studied those a lot, and I think I look a little bit like him, which helped. And yeah, it was just like a regular audition. Just went in there and did the audition, and then if you make it to the next round, you get a callback. So they'll see the people they potentially will hire, and maybe with a few adjustments that they'll give you through your agent. And then I just came back in and I did it again with those adjustments. And then a day or two later, I found out that I got the part. And then I met Victor about a week later, and I was super nervous. But he was so nice to me. And I just went from there.
That's very nice. Were you a fan of the DC TV shows or the comics before you were cast in the show?
Yeah, I mean, like all of these shows, they film in Vancouver, so I try to stay up to date with all the shows that are filmed here, just so I can get a sense of what the tone of the show is, and who's on it and things like that. And then I also just growing up like Batman and Superman and just the whole world has kind of been part of my childhood as well.
Definitely. So you got to reprise the role of the Young Martin Stein in the latest Legends episode, Beebo, the God of War, that aired this week. What was it like working on this episode?
It was so much fun. Been doing it now for a couple years, and every time I do it, I feel like the character gets deeper and deeper, and they always get me to. I always get to do really fun things on the show, which is really cool. Like when I'm being chased by Vikings, or up in a rope net, or when I'm shooting the bow and arrow to hit the Beebo, and all those scenes are just so much fun to film as an actor. And obviously all the cast and crew, I've got to know some of them, so it's nice to see them and work with them again. And hopefully they bring Young Stein back, because it's just such a blast to do it.
Yeah, definitely. And I do have to say, I mean, you brought up the Beebo arrow scene and the Viking scene, like they were back-to-back scenes, so you could almost call them the same scene, really. But I have to say, it's probably one of the most unique scenes I've seen in a superhero show. Like, I thought it was really funny.
Well, yeah, I mean, the episode before, when Stein dies, like, I think maybe it was so heavy that they maybe wanted to start with something a bit lighter with Young Stein. So I think they achieved that. Yeah, it is the same scene that you say that, but it's funny because we filmed it maybe 2 weeks apart, so it felt like it felt like a different scene to me. But yeah, it's just right back to back.
It's really interesting. It just goes to show with TV schedules, of course, some scenes might be like, back to back, when an episode airs, but like those two, they were filmed a couple of weeks apart.
Yeah. It's and even in movies, if you look like behind the scenes, there's Game of Thrones. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan, and in the first episode, Sansa is talking to Cersei when she comes to Winterfell. I'm kind of getting off track here, but they filmed those. I believe they filmed like the scene like a year apart. Like the one coverage was done at one time, and then the other coverage was done a year later, which is so crazy to think.
Well, you may have taught some Game of Thrones fans a new bit of behind the scenes info.
I hope I didn't get that wrong. I might have to look that up after, but I believe I'm right.
Yeah. And speaking of, cool trivia, of course, one of the things that was very cool in the Beebo scene at the start is when you as young Stein shoots the arrow, they play a bit of the arrow music in there.
I know, I caught that I don't know that that's gonna happen when we're filming it, but I did notice that. It's funny how it's just so cool that they put little tidbits there for the fans that people grab, little Easter eggs. I love that.
Yeah, same here, of course. And you're one of the few actors outside of the main cast, of course, that's actually appeared in all 3 seasons so far. How does it feel knowing that?
Yeah, it's a big honor, like I when I first got the part, I just wanted to do Victor Garber and the character justice. I didn't want to make it like a caricature or I wanted to have a lot of heart and try to be as real as possible without going over the top. And I think I achieved that in the first season. And I was really proud of that episode. And then, they brought me back, and then they brought me back again. And it's really cool to have this through line character throughout the show, and to be able to play it again over a certain amount of times, because the character gets deeper as an actor, and it's easier to play, and it becomes more fun that way.
For sure. Now, we touched on it a little bit a few minutes ago, but for me, the latest episode was really powerful, as it gave a strong farewell to the character of Martin Stein, who, of course, the older Stein, Victor Garber, being killed off in the crossover. In fact, and I do have to be honest here, the scene of your Stein and Jax in the Stein's house towards the end of the latest episode is one of my favourite scenes of this season of Legends so far. In particular,
cool.
I feel like that scene, even more than the others, it felt like you were really channeling Victor Garber. Like, in that scene, I really was like, I can literally picture them right together even more than the other episodes or other scenes. Can you tell us about the process of filming that scene?
Sure. Yeah, that was my favorite scene to film, for sure. It gave me the writers gave me a really, really nice scene to work with, and they have a lot of scenes together like that. I mean, not exactly like what we were talking about, but they have a lot of touching moments throughout the series, and I just went back and kind of looked at those, and I just tried to speak it from the heart and just be really real with it, because I know this was the send-off, and I know that it was a really, really important scene. So, I just tried to stay in the moment, and we were filming all day. Like, we had just come from the dropship scene where he gives me the letter. So that was in the same day. So that was a few hours apart. So I was already really in the character, and yeah, I'm really happy how it turned out.
Yeah, it was definitely a really great scene. How would you describe the experience overall working with the cast and crew of Legends?
Oh, it's so much fun. They're a blast to work with. They make me feel comfortable every time I come to set, and the crew's great too. You know, like everyone's just so professional, and you know, people remember me after I come back, and it's just good to see, you know, old friends and old faces, and everyone's working together, you know, for the greater good of the episode and the show, and it's just really cool to be a part of that.
Definitely. What would you say is your favorite memory from your time working on Legends?
Well, probably it would be, man, there's been a few, but I think the first time I got the part, we had to do a read through of the of the episode, and I had met Victor, but I hadn't met Wentworth or Dominic. I'd met Katie before, and I was a huge Prison Break fan when I was younger, like absolutely huge. And then they all walked in the room, and I met them all, and it was just so surreal because I was part of this table read with these, you know, actors that I've looked up to and watched for so long, and it was just pretty surreal. And then after I chatted with, you know, Wentworth for a little bit, and that was awesome. Yeah, I think that was probably my favorite moment.
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense. I mean, considering you grew up on Prison Break, I mean, it would have obviously been fantastic for you to meet two of the main stars working on Legends.
Yeah, I mean, I was absolutely obsessed with it when I was younger. I just loved it so much, and yeah, but also just working with Victor too, and having, you know, because he's an iconic actor, and I've been watching him in projects since I was young, and getting to work with him, and you know, getting to know him was an honor, and it was such a cool experience that I'm very grateful for.
And what would you say were the biggest challenges you faced while working on Legends?
The biggest challenges were to really stay, like I said before, like not play Stein as a caricature and not comment on the character, but actually be the character and speak the truth as the character. Because I can watch, you know, all these clips of the character on YouTube, and I can watch Victor, and I don't want to impersonate, you know, and I want to actually be, and that takes a lot of time with preparation, and really getting into the minute subtlety of the mannerisms and the character, and where he speaks from and where he comes from. And I think that was the biggest challenge, but I think I achieved it, and I'm really, really happy how it all turned out.
Yeah, definitely. Which would you say has been the most challenging role in your career so far, and why?
Well, it probably was a theater role that I did. I did a one-man show called Cranked, and it was with a theater company called Green Thumb Theater here in Vancouver, and they do shows for young audiences, like high schools and elementary schools, theme-based shows, like if it's about like cyberbullying or addiction, but they do it in a cool way where, you know, they get professional writers, and they write these shows which kids can relate to. And I did this show about addiction, a one-man show, and it was about an hour long with a Q&A, and I did 44 shows around BC, the province of BC, I went down to California, and we went down to Nashville, and I did it. But we had to tour in a van all around British Columbia, and British Columbia is a very vast province. And sometimes we do 2 shows in a day. And just the content matter and, physically what it did to me, it was really very challenging, but very, very rewarding because a lot of the kids really loved the show, and they'd come up to me afterwards and they'd tell me how much they loved it, and they'd talk about their, stories of addiction, whether it be in their family or them, and it really just hit home for a lot of them. And it was really cool to be a medium for this powerful message that we got to spread throughout BC and the States. So yeah, that's probably it.
And it's also really great as well because, theatre is obviously different from TV and film in the fact that you get a pretty, instantaneous response instead of, having to wait to see what people say on social media or something.
Yeah. Well, that's the power of theater, is it's right happening in front of your face, and you're experiencing, and as an audience member, you're actually part of the show. You are an element of the show. You dictate how it goes. So and doing a one-man show it's quite a surreal experience, because I just never left the stage, and sometimes there was 1,100 kids, and I'd be looking out, and I do the whole show to the audience, so I'm looking at them the whole time, and I just would watch them transform from at the start. I could tell that they probably thought that this was going to be a boring play about drugs, and then watching them transform and watching their interest grow and watching them get into it was really, really cool.
Yeah, I can imagine. And my final question for you, Graeme, do you have any upcoming acting roles or any other projects that you would like to talk about?
Well, I can't. You maybe have to just stay tuned for that.
Yeah. Well, I do know that you have a new movie that just came out on Nickelodeon, Tiny Christmas.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Tiny Christmas. Yeah, it was. I came out on December the 3rd, and I went to the premiere last week in Los Angeles, and yeah, it's a really cool Christmas movie. It's kind of like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids Christmas. And yeah, I play the head tech elf of the North Pole, and I invent these shrinking goggles that help Santa shrink presents so he can carry more in his sleigh. And yeah, the story goes from there. I don't want to give away too much, but yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. That's all of my questions for you today, Graeme. It's been a pleasure talking to you on the show.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
You're very welcome, and hopefully we can talk to you again sometime.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Well, we'll look forward to talking to you again soon, and thanks again for joining us. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Time to wrap up today's show. Make sure to check out our podcast links, check out our website, website.everythinggeekpodcast.com/EGP, check out our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekpodcast, check out our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/user/everythinggeekcast, check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/everythinggeekp, check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/official-everythinggeekpodcast, check out our Mixcloud profile, www.mixcloud.com/everythinggeekpodcast, email us at the following email, everythinggeekpodcast@gmail.com, check out our companion podcast, Everything Geek Comiccast, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekcomiccast, make sure to check out the hosts' YouTube channels. Mine is www.youtube.com/user/septusdestroyers. Check out Graeme McComb on Instagram, www.instagram.com/Graeme_McComb, and check out channel 1138 where we broadcast live from, www.channel1138.com. Geeks out, everyone.
Well, the biggest challenge working on The Flash originally was trying to get a handle on, the actors talk about motivation a lot, what's motive.
Like Gramps is pretty much, like a second skin if you've been wearing a suit for 3 years. But I think, even just in the one episode, the more I wore it, the more it sort of melded to me. But I mean, it's definitely pretty constricting.